Hello and welcome back everyone to this companion series to A.K. Warder's Grammar Guide, An Introduction to Pali. In Lesson 26 we take a more complete view of numerals in Pali, followed by numerical compounds, and we finish with a couple of rare participle endings. This is Pali Studies on the Learn Pali channel. In many languages, including English, numbers can be somewhat idiosyncratic in how they are formed and how they are used. Pali, in comparison, is actually quite straightforward. For instance, we saw in Lesson 17 that the number 1 declines by number and gender as well as case, and so it behaves like an adjective agreeing with the noun it qualifies. This, I think, is the only number, until we get up into the hundreds, that has a singular form. The other numbers are essentially plurals. The numbers 3 and 4 also decline by gender, and likewise are classed as adjectives. But the numbers 2 and 5 are essentially genderless and only agree in case with the noun qualified. The numbers 6 through 18 all decline like pancha, that is, all those that end with an a. Numbers greater than 10 are generally compounds in the form of 1 and 10, meaning 11. And note that the numeral 10 has alternate forms, being rasa and lasa, and these are only found in the compounds. Technically, from 19 onwards, numbers are classed as nouns rather than adjectives. Those whose stem ends with an I decline as feminine nouns, and those that end with a nigahita decline as neuter nouns. However, they still all generally take the same case as the nouns that they describe, although they keep the same gender and number. And as well as these, there are some alternate forms that Warder lists. The numbers 19, 29, 39, etc. are formed by the prefix ekuna, which means less 1. Thus 29 is 30 less 1. Likewise, as we've seen before, the prefix ada means less a half. The numbers 100 and 1000 were also discussed in Lesson 17. The formation of numerals above 100 is somewhat variable. They can be either compounded, with generally the smaller number first and the larger number at the end, so 8, 20 and 100 makes 128, or written using the word and, where it's generally the larger number which is written separately. And the numbers 200 and above are often written as separate words. And again, Warder adds some variations on this. The half-centuries have special forms using that fraction ada. And these numbers themselves can be compounded with the nouns that they qualify. And that noun can often appear in the middle of the compound, often coming before the larger number. And we'll come to numerical compounds in a minute, but first let's look at ordinal numbers. Ordinal numbers are numbers like first, second, third, fourth, etc. And the first 6 ordinal numbers in Pali were given in Lesson 18. These numbers have special forms, but from the number 7 upwards, they're formed purely by the addition of the suffix ma, which is a bit like the th in English. These ordinal numbers then decline like a-stem nouns and i-stem nouns in the feminine. And if you want more on numbers in Pali, I've put some links down in the description below. Okay. Next, Warder presents the final class of compounds, that is, Digu or numerical compounds, which are a subset of the Kamadereya. With these compounds, the first member is a number, and the second member is a noun. For example, Panchindriyani, the five senses. These compounds often take the plural form, but sometimes they act as collective nouns and are in the neuter singular. And as numbers above 19 are technically classed as nouns, the second member can also be a number. Right, moving swiftly on to what Warder labels as past participles active. In lesson 20, I introduced the possessive secondary derivative suffix vant, which has the meaning to possess the quality of, or the one who possesses such a quality. Warder notes that very occasionally this suffix is applied to a past participle stem, which in turn are formed from stems or roots by means of the suffix ta or ita. Thus from vas we have the participle vosita, which with the possessive suffix becomes vositavant, which means having lived or having fulfilled, he who has accomplished. This then declines like an adjective, as we saw back in lesson 20. Slightly more frequent is the possessive suffix vin. This is similar to the suffix in that we saw in lesson 18, except that a preceding short a is lengthened to r. Thus from vijita, conquered, we get vijitarvin, having conquered. And from bhuta, eaten, we have bhutarvin, having eaten or one who has eaten. And these then decline like that possessive suffix in that we saw back in lesson 18. They generally act as adjectives and describe a state or a quality, such as sutava arya savako. Literally, this means something like the noble disciple possessing the herd, but actually means the learned noble disciple. Well, that's lesson 26. Getting near the end now. In next week's lesson, we look at clauses and complex sentence construction. In the meantime, don't forget my other tutorials and of course my blog.